Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Interviewing the Legends. I'm your host, Ray Shasho. The Georgia Thunderbolts have announced their highly anticipated sophomore album, Rise Above It All, set for release on August 23rd via Mascot Records, featuring the quintet's signature blend of Southern rock, blues, and heartfelt Americana. The 13-track album showcases the band's ability to navigate a vast array of musical terrains while also capturing the profound emotional and artistic growth fostered by their years on the road. The road to being hailed as the new torchbearers of Southern rock hasn't been as glamorous as you might imagine for the Georgia Thunderbolts. It wasn't many years ago that the guys busked at gas stations, fumbled through covers, and drove 4 hours to Alabama to play to a bartender and a three-legged dog sitting on a barstool. That's a song in itself. The most transformative experience for the band has been the month back in 2022 when the Georgia Thunderbolts spent touring Europe with Blackstone Cherry. None of them have been across the pond before, and it was the longest they had been away from home. All the growth and maturation over the past 2.5 years can be heard on Rise Above It All. The 13-song collection is a Flag Planet album, setting the stage for an exciting new chapter as the Georgia Thunderbolts continue to rise and resonate with audiences worldwide. Please welcome lead vocalist, keyboardist, and harmonica player for the Georgia Thunderbolts, TJ Lyle, to Interviewing the Legends. Hello, DJ.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing good, man. I found out that Jim Morrison's father is originally from Rome, Georgia.
I didn't know that till a few years ago. I really got into a big Doors thing. I've always listened to the Doors, but I never really dove into them. Then I got into the Soft Parade, and then I was really taken by that album. And I started doing some research, and then I started watching like the documentaries, like the Riders on the Storm doc and everything like that. And I looked up his dad, and I was on something, and I seen that he was in the military, and I was like, oh well, this is pretty neat. And he's actually buried in Myrtle Hill over in Rome, and I was like, what?
Oh, I
This is
didn't know
great.
that.
Yeah,
Yeah, Jim Morrison's got roots at Florida State, you
yeah,
know, and I'm originally from the DC area, and he had roots in Virginia as well. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, I love the Doors, man. I thought they were such a good band.
yeah. It's very obscure, for the
Yeah.
time. Everybody was like, you know, losing their minds and coming together and seeing things in a different way. And God, they come up with some great music.
They're very different too. They have their own
Yeah,
style,
yeah.
you know?
They're more, there's so much more than what people give them credit for.
Yeah. It- you guys too. And if anybody calls you a Southern rock band, I'm going to kill them because you guys can be Southern rock when you want to, but you guys are eclectic, man. And here's what I said about the new album. I hope you like it. I said the Georgia Thunderbolts can do it all. Their new album, Rise Above It All, validates the group's proficient musical capabilities by incorporating rock, R&B, country, blues, and even gospel into 13 brilliant tracks. Lead singer TJ Lyle has a powerful voice with instant reminders, now listen to this, of Chris Cornell and Paul Rogers. Several
Yeah,
tracks could easily become top 10 hits on contemporary hit and country radio stations. These guys are great. 5 stars.
that's awesome. Thank you so much.
You got a great voice.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Some days I wake up and I have to make sure I'm still the guy that sings in the Super Bowl.
What's so cool about your voice, you can do anything. I mean, if you want to sound like Chris Cornell or Paul Rogers, you do it. And if you want to
Yeah,
sound country, you can do country. So that's a real advantage.
yeah, yeah. It really is. I've done a lot of work. Trying to train and getting my voice right. But at the end of the day, it's really, I'm pretty good at mimicking people. But not to the point where it's identical. Just to
Right.
kind of put it into my own thing. And when my real voice comes out, I'm just doing their technique. That's all it is.
That's a skill. That's a real skill to do
Thank,
that.
thank
Yeah.
you.
I'm going to go over some tracks on the album. Okay.
Yeah,
Of course, it starts out with Gone to Shine. which is a very, very cool kind of a country rock tune.
Yeah.
And then you get into rock and roll record, which is incredible. I mean, incredible guitars, awesome vocals, fantastic lyrics, kind of a Bad Company sound is what I got. Talk
Oh yeah.
about rock and roll records.
Rock Record was the very first song that I wrote on my piano. I just had got a brand new piano, and it was right before, it was during COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Just had set up the piano, and I was sitting down trying to figure out it's one of those Nord pianos, so it's like a spaceship. I was sitting down and looking at it. It has like the oscillators and the synthesizer and the organ and everything, and I was just messing around with it. And while I was messing around, I was kind of doing that with my left hand and going through the sounds and stuff, just moving it. And then I started doing this one thing that on a sound that I really liked, which was like a Wurlitzer, like an old style Rhodes or like a Wurlitzer. And I started playing with it, and then I started doing little chords because I didn't know what the notes were back then. I really haven't been playing piano but just a few years, and I was just messing around with it and playing around with it, and then all of a sudden I started doing it back to back, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. And then I had the very first notes of the song, and then I started singing over it, and I was like, oh well, I need a chorus. And then I went into it, and I sat there and wrote the whole entire song, and it wasn't until 2023 or 22, 2022. This was during COVID when I wrote it, so it wasn't until 2022 that I'd even showed anybody the song. It was just sitting there because
Oh,
when
wow.
I write a lot, and I kind of just throw things in the back of my mind. I forget about it, and we're getting ready to work on the new record, and I was like, well, I've got a few. Let's run through these. And I sat down and I sent it to them on voice memo and showed it to them, and they were like, well, let's do it. I was like, yeah, well, that's basically how it came to be, though. It's one of those that come out of nowhere. And obviously, I'm a huge fan of Paul Rogers and Bad Company and The Firm, all that stuff. So it just came out because it tends to work like this sometimes. If I'm listening to an artist, I get really fixated on an artist for a long time, like
I do
periods,
too. Yeah.
months. Yeah, it's hard not to when you really enjoy and you're trying to learn. Like I've been on a Thelonious Monk kick for like a year and a half now.
Wow.
Just learning I can about the piano because the guy was such a monster. But that's basically how that song came to be. It come out of nowhere, and it was just kind of fresh, and I was still learning the ropes of learning the notes on the piano and where I needed to be. And finally, when I came back to it, I was like, oh well, I know the notes now, so I can just play them.
And you have all the components of being a legend because you you like all kinds of genres. I know you like R&B.
Yeah,
With the Ray Charles, and you grew up with your parents, liking the Shy Lights, and me too. I was
yeah,
originally from the Baltimore, DC area, and we grew up with soul music. You know, and but you like there's so many other facets of music that you love, and that's
yeah,
that's what make great artists.
yeah. I was just listening to James Carr last night. I was listening to his album, "This Ain't Rain in My Eyes" or something. I don't remember the name of the album exactly, but it has like "Dark End of the Street" on it
Hmm.
and all that stuff. And I come to find out, I didn't know that Dan Penn had wrote that. The one who wrote "Dark End of the Street," and then he wrote "I'm Your Puppet." He was just a
Hmm.
big
Oh
songwriter, and a
yeah.
friend who's in a band in Arkansas actually went to go see Dan Penn not too long ago, and he brought me a hat that was autographed, and I thought that was the coolest thing ever. I got it hanging up in there.
Very cool. After talking to so many legendary R&B artists, it's you never realize how close R&B, country, and doo-wop are so close together. It's
Yeah,
kind of doo-wop came into the R&B, and then gospel and country roots. So, yeah, it makes sense. It really does. A lot of
it has
crossover there.
it like runs along the same roots, but people have their own interpretation of it.
Exactly.
It's all really happy music, if you
It is.
listen to it, and it's all very positive, and that's what I like about it because some of the music is just it sounds so sad and so pretty, and then it's got these
Hmm.
beautiful melodies, and it's just wow.
Yeah. Yeah. Right off the bat, I'm thinking Rainy Night in Georgia,
Yeah,
music like
yeah.
that. Tony Joe
We
White
That
wrote
used to
that. And yeah.
That's Brooks Benton, right?
Brooks Benton. Yeah.
That what was that guy's name who played? I always forget his name, but he was a monster guitar player who he came up with that intro.
Hmm.
And that intro was actually used, if you listen, in Band on the Run by Paul McCartney.
Oh, really? Is that right?
That da, da,
Yeah,
da,
that's right.
Friday Night in Georgia.
Yeah.
I
Great
never can
music.
remember. No, he's an animal. I mean, he's a monstrous guitar player.
Huh. Yeah, a lot of those guys never got the credit they deserved, especially all the
Mm-mm.
early blues guys.
Yeah, they're not even talked about anymore.
I
And it's
know. It's sad. It really is.
who never gets a lot of credit anymore, and he was actually one of the first people in the 27 Club was
Hmm.
Wilson from Canned Heat.
Yep.
He was a monster, man.
Yeah, he was.
And he was a big John Lee Hooker fan too. You could tell by the way he sung.
Yep.
It's a shame.
I know. I know. I had the drummer from Can Heat on.
Oh
Yeah.
wow, yeah.
Yeah. Very cool.
That is,
Rock and Roll Record reminds me, it's kind of like an anthem in a way.
yeah.
It's kind of like, we're an American band from Grand Funk, rock and roll record. It's that kind of message,
Yeah.
which is really cool. I love
Yeah,
it, man. It's a rocker. It's great.
thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Of course, the single that's out, Rise Above It All. Um, Great guitar work. A little bit Soundgarden.
Oh yeah.
I was, I keep saying that because I was a big Soundgarden fan, an Audio
Yeah,
Slave, and I was heartbroken when, Chris Cornell died, man.
yeah,
You
it was
know,
terrible. That
yeah,
was just shattering, man. I don't it's horrible.
yeah. Talk about Rise Above It All because you picked that as your single.
Was actually listening to I was in one of my music phases. I was actually listening to a ton of Audio Slave when we wrote this. And I mean, because it's hard to say, your favorite rock bands, but I have five that I listen to that are actual just rock on
Right.
repeat. I mean, it's Frankie Miller, Bob Seger, Chris Cornell, Audio Slave, Bad Company. Uh, I can't name them. I can't just condense them. It's so hard for me. But I was listening to Audio Slave, and the guy Bristol actually come up with that riff, and it was really cool. And I was like, wow, this is really neat. And I actually borrowed a trick from Chris Cornell that he uses in Audio Slave pretty often. And the second chorus, yeah, it's the second chorus at the end where it tapers off and it kind of does that. Oh, I love that so much, man. Can I put this somewhere? Can I please put this somewhere? No, because I was trying to do a little heavier vocals on this record, and then after I listened to it for a while, I was like, well, maybe I should dial it back just a little bit, and I just kind of put little nuances and flavorful stuff in there when I could. But yeah, that was that song. We were in the studio, we were jamming, and we were getting ready to start writing, and then Bristol had that riff, and he started playing it, and I always have my notepad because I don't use my phone to write because I get so aggravated and I get so distracted if somebody's texting me that I'm like, well, train of thought gone. So I just put the phone down. And I was sitting there writing. I was like, I was mumbling through, and then I got to the chorus, and then the whole chorus just came out. It was like, wow, okay, so now we have to build off the chorus and make that song. And basically, that's what it turned into, and we never touched it. That's exactly what from when it was written to when it was recorded.
I hate it when artists, over record and they have 10 takes, it's not necessary. If you try to be a perfection, it never works out.
Yeah.
Sometimes the
No.
first take is the best.
Yeah. Yeah.
E-
A lot of the songs on both of our records
Yeah.
are one.
And even if it has a mistake or two, it's fine. Sometimes the mistakes are a good thing.
If you listen close enough to these two records, you'll find a few here and there, but we left them. It makes the song.
It makes a song. I agree. Chris Cornell, in my opinion, had one of the best Bond theme songs.
Oh,
right?
mine too. Mine too. Yeah.
I love it.
Movies. Those are my favorite movies.
Me
think
too.
my least favorite is the Jack White one. I think
Right.
that's my I think that's my least favorite one. The Billie Eilish one was really, really neat. But I think Chris Cornell's my favorite, and then it does Skyfall, and then the original. I also love the one that's overlooked a lot. It's Nobody Does It Better. Spy Who Loved Me by
Right.
Carly Simon. That was one of my favorites too. That piano work's just killer.
Yeah. Yeah. Adele did a good job too. She really did. But I like Roger, I love Sean Connery, probably maybe the best, but the most realistic Bond was Daniel Craig. Because he actually was more realistic than any of the other Bonds. I'm gonna miss him.
I actually picked up a copy of vinyl the other day. It was the original Thunderball soundtrack with Tom
wow.
Jones. Yeah, I picked it up the other day, and I sat here and I was listening to it, and I was like, "Oh God, this is incredible."
Yeah, I had Chris Slade on yesterday, drummer,
Oh,
and he was on all the early Tom Jones records as a drummer, and he was with AC/DC, he was with Manfred Mann, he was in the you just mentioned it, the Firm. He was in the
yeah.
Firm as well. Good
We
guy,
actually
really good guy.
We played with Tony Franklin
Yep.
on the boat a few years ago from Rock Legends cruise, and he's
Cool.
He's the nicest guy, man.
Yeah. What I understand, you guys had a tough time putting this album together because you guys were on the road when you put it together.
Yeah, we were in the middle of a tour with a band called Ball, and we were doing dates in between, and it was the middle of winter, and we recorded in Kentucky, so it was snowing, and we couldn't really get to it, but we found a time. Like totally, this album, our part of the album was completely recorded maybe in 2.5 weeks.
Really? Wow, that's amazing.
We were playing, we were on. And actually, this is a funny story. Every time we've ever recorded an album or a song, I have bronchitis every single time. Every single song I've sang on the record, on both records, I've had bronchitis. I don't know what. It's a curse,
It sounds like it.
It's awful.
Where'd you guys record in Kentucky?
A place called Barrick Recording Studio in Glasgow, Kentucky.
Glasgow.
Yeah, Glasgow, Kentucky. It's a pretty decent sized little town, but it's right next to our manager's hometown, Edmonton, Kentucky.
Okay. My wife's from Kentucky. That's why I asked. She's from Henderson, Western Kentucky, near Evansville.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah. It's a good town. I like Kentucky. I got married there.
Pretty laid back everywhere you go there.
It is. People are really friendly too.
Yeah.
Good people there. There's 2 songs on this album. It should be hits. I was in radio back in the late 70s. I was a top 40 DJ, so I know what should be a hit. But radio's changed. It's not the same anymore. Corporations, iHeartRadio, people like that own all these multi-stations, and they play the same crap over and over and again, which is a shame.
Pretty monopolized.
Yeah, it sucks. If I had my way, man, definitely 2 of the songs on this album would be top 10s. The first one's Ain't Got No Money. That's a top 10 hit for sure. And that would be a top 10 now on a country station. That's the cool thing about you guys.
Yeah.
Because you can get a top hit on a country station as well. Because you got that modern country rock flair,
Yeah.
That's one of them. The other one would be Wait, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, the first time I remember when we were writing that song, me and Logan were sitting out here and we were like, well, we never sit down much anymore at that time because we've been so busy being on the road and stuff. We sat down and I was listening to a lot of Beatles, a lot. I was, and that song title, Wait Till I Come Back to You.
Yeah.
And I was like, that's really cool. Can I use that? And make it different? I didn't know, I always get nervous using big songs, titles, because I'm like, oh man, I don't want people to think I'm that guy, like writing a way to heaven, and then it's nothing like you would expect, But we sat down, and first thing I had on that was the chorus, and it came right out. We sat there and played the whole song through, and we recorded it. I remember we kind of got excited about it, and we just stopped after that. We was like sitting back listening to it. We're like, yeah, it's pretty neat, and
Mm.
it got really well in the studio.
Yeah, it's a hit, man. You guys got connections in Nashville?
Yeah, yeah, we
Yeah,
do. We got a few. Actually, my buddy is a really good friend of mine. His name's Kurt Ozon. He
right.
plays. He's multi instrumentalist who plays on tour with Luke Combs.
Mm.
He's playing the pedal steel on that. So it was really nice to have him involved. He's a really good guy and he's a really talented individual. But he said the same thing. He said it's a smash, and I was
It's
like,
a
well,
smash. Yeah.
please send it.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. We need new music, new good music on the radio. We really
Just
do, man.
trying as hard as possible to get to radio, man. It's
Yeah.
like fighting a bear with nubs, you know. I mean, we
Yeah.
can't really do much.
I don't know why the dance music songs have taken over. I don't get that. And they only appeal to a certain, bunch of teeny boppers, and that's it.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
There's nothing like there's not a variety of music
there's
anymore.
not.
It's either country. This is like all together. It's like country, rock,
Hmm.
pop, and your rap, and then that's it. And
That's it.
everything way over here. You know, it's not non-existent unless you go to YouTube or go to a hole in the wall
Right.
venue. You know, I don't
It's
know.
a
It's just
shame.
it is. It's very sad because there's a lot of bands out there that really need to be heard, and it's sad that they're not getting the chance to be put on the radio, or like back in the '60s, they throw those singles up and just try them out, and then boom,
Yep.
there they are. Here we are talking about them 60 years later.
I know. Well, back in the 60s, you had Frank Sinatra, the Beatles, Motown, all on one station, on the top
Yeah,
40 station. And when I was in radio back in the late 70s, disco was huge, but
yeah,
we had a mix. We had Donna Summer, we had the Cars, even Kiss and Led Zeppelin, the Ramones. I played all that on top 40,
yeah.
you know?
Wow, man, that sounds like the times right there.
I I know, but yeah, times need to change, man. And
Yeah,
I played the first rap song on the air. First commercial rap song was the Sugar Hill Gang, Rapper's
yeah.
Delight. That was 1979. That's how long rap has been around, you know?
Oh,
So
talk
things need to
talk about that.
change. It's
Definitely.
incredible, man. All right, now here, this song showcases your R&B talents. Crawling My Way Back to You. Okay?
Mhm.
Very soulful R&B, little country and blues in there as well. And you know what vibe I got? I got the vibe of Percy Sledge and When a Man Loves a Woman.
Whoa, wow, that's awesome. Wow, that is awesome.
That's a great tune.
Thank you so much. That was one of those that come out of thin air too, and very fortunate enough to kind of channel it to the paper.
Great song. Great
Thank you.
song. Some of the other tunes, She's Gonna Get It, which is going to be great live. You know,
Yeah,
I could hear that in a small club somewhere and just, drinking beer. Little Jim,
yeah,
again, has that Paul Rogers, Chris Cornell feeling to it.
yeah.
And here's an interesting song. I have a new genre for you. Country reggae gospel.
Oh yeah, there you go.
It ain't easy.
Yeah, yeah, oh yeah. That's different. That's different, man.
I don't know how you came up with that one.
That's it's uh it's actually an old Betty LaVey song.
Really?
Old
Really?
blues. Yeah, sure is. And it wasn't a very, very popular song.
Hmm.
Uh and that was actually recorded in 2017. Yeah. And
Wow.
we completely forgot about that, and we went back and we're listening to stuff and our old files and stuff that we wanted to go through to make sure that we didn't miss anything along the
Right.
way. And we found that song and sent it over to Chris Robertson from Blackstone Cherry to get
Hmm.
it. He mixed that for us, and he completely put a new spin on it. And like you just said, it kind of does sound like reggae now that you say that. I mean,
Yeah, I thought I was going crazy, but I wanted to confirm with you. I did hear some reggae in there.
it's got the key.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, a little Bob Marley and the Wailers.
Yeah,
Love it, man. Last three songs on the track, Stand Up, another rocker, little Soundgarden Audio Slave feel to that. Your guitarists are great, man.
oh
Who
yeah.
who plays lead?
Riley
Oh,
plays lead.
he's awesome.
Yeah, he's got a lot of energy, man.
Yeah, where'd you find him?
He's from Armurchie. Him and Bristol kind of grew up and went to school together, and it's just been there from the start. We actually met up there in Cartersville when we were doing an open mic back in the day, and that's kind of how it all came to be. And we've just been together since late 2015 on.
He's incredible. He really
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
Then if you want to get into your Southern rock, you get into whiskey talk.
yeah, yeah, yeah. That's Southern rock as it gets. I mean,
Typical Southern rock track or title.
hell yeah,
Yeah. Or little Pat Travers.
oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And then the heavy rocker at the end, Price Tag, which is a great song. Incredible song.
Thank you.
Yeah. The music video's out there. Um, you said it was directed by, is it Arbogast? Jim Arbogast?
Yep, sure is.
Yep. Yep. You got to tell me when you said you guys were um, singing to a three-legged dog, that's a song. I mean, tell me
Yeah,
about those, a little bit about those times.
it was just we were really hungry, and we were really trying to play and trying to get our name out there, but it was like we only had a small market, like we just started playing our original stuff, and then we just had started getting out of like the North Georgia and Middle Georgia and like East West Georgia and East Alabama thing. We just had started getting out of all that, and
Hmm.
um we played this place multiple times. I don't even know if it exists anymore. But it's in Kimberly, Alabama. It's a place called TP Miller's,
Hmm.
and we and play 4.5, 5 hour sets, and it was the smokiest. I'm not kidding. If you wore a good pair of clothes in there, you would have to throw them away when you left. Like it's the cigarette smell. It was
Mm.
so bad, so bad. But they let us come over there and play. And remember, we had one or two shows there prior, and there was a pretty decent crowd. They were having like their little bike night or something there, and we played there.
Right.
And gave us a show during a Friday or Saturday there, and nothing was going on. It was just us. We were the entertainment, and we got to started playing, and there was the bartender and a chair. So the stage was probably waist high, and it was really long, really long stage. It had a big drum riser. It was a great venue. I mean, it was a great venue. Um, had the big long stage and the drum riser and the low hanging ceilings, and it was pretty
Hmm.
deep. And there's pool tables in the back, and the bar was over here to the left, and the big dance floor, and the chair had been pulled up closer to the stage, and the dog was sitting in the chair and uh, it had three legs. I noticed it there before because it was like the bar dog. I mean, it just hung out at the bar, and it was inside, and the only people that were in there was the bartender and that dog. And every so often, the lady would bring the dog water or bring the dog. Like, well, there's a first time for everything. This is incredible.
If you ever want to do a blues album or a pure country album, that'd be a great album cover.
Yeah, I know.
The three-legged
Uh,
dog on the, you know, maybe with a bottle of
well, a
whiskey.
lot of people don't believe me, but all the guys in the band will attest that is an actual true statement that
Mm.
we for almost 5 hours to a dog. He never moved. So I guess he had a pretty good time.
I love to hear those stories of bands, their struggles and things like that. And it just shows you guys are human, not
Yeah,
super,
yeah.
super
No,
rich rock stars. You know what I mean?
oh no, nobody's above that. You know, you got to
Hmm.
start somewhere. And for those who, and for the people who don't start somewhere like that or go through any kind of adversity trial or anything, or having your stuff stolen on the road, or
Right.
getting to a gig and having rain, ruin your gear, stuff like that. People who are just thrust into it don't really understand the appreciation for it.
Hmm.
Like
I agree.
bands who have been clawing at this for 30, 40 years
That's
and
right.
still right there. They're right there. And people who just get thrust into it, I think they just never mind everything else. They just want the people and the money and all that stuff, which the money is great, but if you love what you do, money's good, don't get me wrong. But if you love what you do, then it's not about the money,
Hmm. I
It's about
agree.
trying to make a change and making something that makes you and the people around you happy
Yeah.
and all that stuff.
Well, for you guys, musicians, man, it's for the love of music,
Oh
you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
There's,
I'm an author and they say the same thing. You're going to write because you love writing, not for the money, you know?
yeah. It's like writing songs too. I've written hundreds and hundreds of songs that suck and nobody will ever hear, but one
You
day
like
there's
them.
gonna
Yeah,
one day be one,
sure.
that's and that would make it all worth it.
That's right.
That's the struggle, that's the road. And
Yep.
if you can follow it and just stay true to the music and not let your soul get in the way, your mind get in the way of things, what your heart and your soul wants. That's the most purest form of a high.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I go through the same thing as an author, man. I've written 3 books. Um, I had to go self-publishing because
Yeah.
publishing houses didn't want to do anything with them. And
Yeah.
now I'm writing my 4th book. So we'll see what
Wow.
happens, but you
That's
go through the struggles and the rejections and all that crap, and
yeah.
it is what it is. Some of the bands that told me about their struggles, I talked to the Commodores.
Yeah.
They all slept in the same bed in the hotel, which was fun. Imagine Lionel Richie sleeping with 3 other guys,
Yeah, no, it's crazy. You'll do some crazy things to make it, man.
And a progressive rock guy, I don't know if you know him, Devin Towson, really good guy. He says he used to play at venues and there's a bar light behind him. That was the only lighting they had. That was the stage lighting, the bar light.
Yeah, yeah. That does not surprise me. That not one bit. You wouldn't believe what some of these promoters hold in such high regard. And then it's just like a toilet seat for a drum thumb.
Yeah. That's funny. Oh man. And then when you're spoiled one day, it's you're gonna be really appreciative over that.
Yeah.
You
Oh
know,
yeah.
that's so cool. I was lucky. I covered Joan Jett and Alanis Morissette in Tampa. And I got to be on the stage with Joan Jett, and I got to see the workings behind the scene and all that stuff. That was pretty cool.
I bet.
It's like a machine, these guys just know what to do.
I mean, really, if you look at it when they're on that kind of level and you go backstage, it ain't a
Hmm.
party it used to be. The party's somewhere in some hotel.
Yeah,
At that,
there's no party there. Yeah.
yeah, that venue, man, it's like factory and factory. Like you just said, it's just like a factory wheel just running constantly.
And I'm telling you, man, the roadies, what they
Yeah.
do is incredible. Imagine the roadies, the stage crew for like Pink Floyd, what
Uh,
they go through every night and to move all the gear and stuff and set up,
yeah,
break
that,
down.
that's incredible.
I,
It takes a special kind of person to do that,
yes.
really.
And they don't get much credit.
No, like all those pictures you see of Jimi Hendrix beating the hell out of his guitar amps, and then you see all those guys back there holding them up.
That's true. That is true. How's your management and everything? You guys got a good team in play, so you can.
Yo, we've had the same team for a while now.
Good.
Richard Young from the Kentucky Headhunters
Yeah.
manages us. He takes
Oh,
care of
really?
us.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
yeah, sure does. Yeah, he's our producer and our manager, and he takes pretty good care of us. He's the one who's got us really where we are. He stuck his neck out so much for us, and we just try not to let him down. By trying to grow and do everything we possibly can to, keep up with expectations.
I had Greg Martin on the show.
Yeah,
So
Greg's great.
if you see Greg, tell him I said hello. He's a good
I,
guy.
I
You know,
will.
we had that Kentucky thing in common, you know.
Now Greg is a phenomenal. He's like so such a big palette of music,
Hmm.
from all that old Led Zeppelin to all the old, John Lee Hooker to your Muddy
Yeah.
Water, Robert Johnson. Then he goes all the way over to soul, and then all the way back to jazz. Like I don't know, he's got a big palette of music, and he's such an incredible guitar player, and his tone is just out of this world.
Did he grow his beard back?
Yeah, I think so. He grows it so fast, he changes it like every other week.
Yeah, it freaked me out when I looked at him and he didn't have his beard. You know, you get used to people like that, you know.
Yeah.
Well, you guys got some dates coming up. Um, actually, July 5th, you did play in Rome.
Mhm.
July 26th, you're going to be in Dalton, Georgia, I guess.
I think so. I think
Yep.
so. Yeah.
And August 10th, you're going to be playing with Ace Frehley and Foghat. Very cool.
Yeah. Yeah. In Kentucky.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And you guys actually played with a lot of big bands in the past.
Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Yeah. We played some of our favorites, and like the Marshall Tucker Band, the Outlaws,
Hmm.
Blackberry Smoke. We played with them, but we played with Roger Daltrey and
Whoa.
Deep Purple on the Rock Legends cruise, and that was out of sight. I mean, that was incredible.
That had been a lot of fun.
Oh,
I want to. I've got to, the problem about the Legends cruise, man. You got to make reservations like 2 years in advance. It sells out so quickly. You know.
yeah, it does. It was a blast, man. That was the best experience I think I've ever had on. I guess
Hmm.
you call it on the road or on playing shows. That was one of the best experiences I've ever had, was being on that boat, and got to meet and hang out with Tony Franklin, Lou
Hmm.
Graham, you know, all these people just that are heroes in the music world, and you get to sit there and eat lunch with them. You're like, God, what?
Yeah. That
It's
is
incredible.
awesome. I want to mention real quick, people got to listen to your cover of Bob Seger.
Yeah,
You did a great job with that, man. You got a lot of people make comments on that as
I
well.
appreciate it. Now Bob's he's a monster, man. He's one of my favorite songwriters of all time.
Main Street.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good one.
Are you still motocrossing?
I don't do it. No, I don't do it much anymore. I try to stay as healthy as possible so we don't have to miss any shows.
That's true.
Yeah, I don't wanna wreck too awful much. Maybe I'll get mine fixed one day and get back out there, but probably just to wheel around. I'm not trying to go crazy anymore.
My my son's father-in-law does that, but he's fallen a few times and ended up in the hospital, and he's like 68.
Yeah,
So he breaks easy, now.
yeah, yeah, be careful doing that stuff.
TJ, here's your final question. I ask a lot of people this question. I get some very interesting answers. If you had a Field of Dreams wish, and I like that movie, Field of Dreams, one of my favorites, to perform with or collaborate with anyone from the past or present, who would that be?
Hmm. There's two people that I really want to write a song with. Actually, man, that's tough. Holy cow, that's a question. Uh, I want to write a song with John Lennon. I wouldn't necessarily say I'd want to write it with him. I just want to be in the room when he wrote a song and
That's funny.
see how that went.
Right.
And another thing is I would love to go into the studio in the early 40s. I would have loved to have been in the studio when they recorded White Christmas by Bing Crosby. I would have loved to sit and watch the orchestra play
Hmm.
and do that.
Interesting, huh? Those are the
I know,
days. Those were the
yeah,
days.
yeah.
Yeah.
That is the number one selling single of all time.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
You know what that tells you, doesn't it? You got to write a Christmas song.
Just like John Lennon, he wrote one.
Yep.
All the big artists like that. They have such a huge variety of inspiration and stuff, and then they write the best Christmas music. Paul McCartney. I
Yep.
mean, come on now, that's incredible.
It's a moneymaker. I mean,
Yeah,
you're guaranteed to have it played every year.
Mariah Carey. There you go.
TJ, I want to say thank you so much, man, for being on the show today. The band is great. The album's fantastic. You guys are going to go far. I really
Thank
believe that. I wish you guys would be on the radio more, of course. Make sure you come to Florida, man. Florida's going to love you.
Absolutely, sure will.
I'm in the Tampa Bay area, and you know, no reason manager can't, make plans for Florida.
Yeah, yeah. Hopefully, we'll be back down there before, if not this year, early next year.
Okay, awesome. I want to say special thanks today to John Bleiter of Prospect PR for arranging this interview with TJ Lyle. Purchase the new album by the Georgia Thunderbolts, Rise Above It All. You can pre-order it now. The album's actually coming out August 23rd. And I guess the link is it's a link.to/ the Georgia Thunderbolts, or I guess on your website would
Yeah,
be probably a good place to buy the album
yeah.
as well. Okay, www.georgiathunderbolts.com. You guys are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Thank you, man, for being on the show. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed it.
All right, man. Thank you, TJ.
Take care, brother. Have a good one.
You too. Bye bye.